Hello, I hope you are doing great. Okay, so we are going to see how to create or how to use the Azure Maps APIs. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go to create a new resource in Azure to create our Azure Maps. Um, so we select Azure Maps, we hit create. Now we choose the subscription. Demo Maps API. Now we choose the pricing SO or S1. For demo purposes, we are going to select only the standard SO or S0. Okay, and now we wait for this to finish validating, and then we proceed to navigate to the resource when it has already been created. So the resource is already created, and you will see that in here we have some authentication information that we are going to need in a few. If you go to the getting started, you will have some links to the documentation. So let's see, the first thing we are going to do is actually just go to the API, the REST, and we are going to use the search service to find some locations. So let's see, we have this get search address. We basically takes an address and returns information, but we want to find things maybe by point of interest. Let's say point of interest basically returns some point of interest based on a query or a search. So for example, if you want to find the Statue of Liberty by text or Starbucks, you want to use this. One of the advantages of this documentation is that you can hit try it and just test it, but we are not going to do that there. I am going to copy this. I am going to open Postman, and we are going to try our queries from Postman itself. Okay, because we want to save those queries probably for we want to save those queries if we want to use them later or test them with something else. Azure Maps, we create a request, get point of interest by let's name it by keyword. Save Azure Maps. So I copied the URL already, and we see that in the query we need to put the name, and here they have this format. This format is currently it only supports JSON as far as I remember, as far as I know, and the query is Starbucks. Okay, now if I click send in here, it will not work, and it will probably tell me that well, first I didn't have to copy the get there, and now it says that I am unauthorized. So you need to see that on the request header, we need to pass, well, we could pass this client ID. Also, you will see that there are two different ways to invoke this. This is the base URL, and when you have subscription key, you need to pass it. So I am going to copy the name. That's going to be in the query string. So I'm going to put it in the parameters section of this. And I am going to go to the Azure Maps resource that we just created. I'll copy it and I'll paste the value here, and let's see what happens now. Now, when I hit send, you will see that now I get some results. The Starbucks stamp K, which is the query, or that's how it comes in the results. Now that Starbucks stamp is because it actually ended up there when I paste the value by mistake. Okay, so that's fixed already. Now send. Okay, the query is Starbucks. And now we see that we got 10 results, and there are 22,471 results in total. Okay, so now under the point of interest, it gives me Starbucks, name Starbucks, category set, categories, a lot of links, and it will tell me where those are. Okay, now I am going to create a small Blazor application. So Blazor Web Assembly App 3.1 is going to be ASP.NET Core hosted. Blazor Azure Maps API demo. Okay, I am going to create the project. And in the server project, I am going to go to the app settings JSON, and I'll add some keys in there. You could also use something as Azure Keyboard or any other configuration that helps you keep your keys secret. But in this case, I am just going to use this. So my base URL for I'm going to name it just key, or actually, yeah, just key. Okay. Let's see. I think I may have something wrong in the configuration there. We'll check it in a second. Okay. 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 Well, I'll check that later. Okay. The basic URL is going to be I am going to use that one because I always want the content as JSON, and as far as I know, currently only JSON results are supported from the Azure Maps API. So I don't really care to I don't need support for any other formats. Okay, so let's see. Now I am going to create a folder for configuration. I'm going to create a class name Azure Maps Configuration. Azure Maps Configuration is going to have public string. It's going to have the map properties, public string, and the key, public string key, and that will be it. Now we go to the startup, configure services, configuration dot get, actually configuration bind, yes, we can use this bind, configuration get section. Okay, Azure Maps configuration. Get let's see if this one actually work. Azure Maps configuration. Okay. Let's see if that actually works okay, and if we do not have any more errors in here. Azure Maps configuration. Okay. I believe that's okay. So let's see. Let's wait a little bit for the project to load. And we should see if we have any errors. So it says that the JSON file is actually incorrectly formatted, which is some of the error that was happening before. I'm not sure why yet. Let's see. Okay. Azure Maps configuration. Okay. That one is okay. It's okay in there. Get boy URL. That one's okay in there. Key. Okay, that one is okay. Okay, so I had some error somewhere and I don't really know where it was. Now that seems to be okay. Get boy URL. Was that the name? Get boy base URL. Boy base URL. Okay. Start the application. And now let's see if this one actually works. Azure Maps config is here. It was bound to the configuration. And now what I want to do is services.add singleton and I'll add the object. Azure Maps config. So that will actually allow me to go to the controller. We'll create a new controller. ASP.NET Core. Controller class. Okay, and I am going to name it Maps Controller. Okay, now this is going to be an API, so we need to set it to as an API controller, and we are going to use controller base 2. Now, what do I want to return? public async task action result search poi by keyword string keyword. Let's put the n. Okay, this is going to be a get. Okay, and now something that we have to do is we are going to implement the constructor. We are going to take advantage of dependency injection so we can get the configuration here. Azure Maps configuration, was it? Yes, Azure Maps configuration. And we are going to put this private. It's only going to have the get. And now string request URL equals Azure Maps configuration get POE based URL. Now we will see that that URL is everything before the quotation sign. So now what do I want? I need to add the API version, the query, and the subscription key. So API version, query, subscription key. Okay, so subscription key should be in the configuration. For API version, we are currently going to use the 1.0, and for the query, we are going to use keyword. And that's going to be our query. Now we are going to use an HTTP client. Okay. Result equals await HTTP client, the instance, not the class. HTTP client get from JSON async. That from JSON async is actually one of the latest extensions that were added to the JSON to the net HTTP library. There is a package system.net, the system.net.json that could be used, and I believe Blazor actually has it by default. Let's see, get from JSON async. And now we still do not have the type that we are going to use. We need to create a class. I am going to create a small class that has models. Azure Maps. Empty class. Get response. And we are going to implement our class in there. So there are a couple of things that we could do. One is just copy the implement manually, or we can just use some kind of generator.